What's up, Fibromyalgia friends? We are live. It is Saturday Night Live, and we are streaming from Taiwan and over here in California, North Carolina, and Ohio. Welcome to all our Fibromyalgia friends. Come on in. We're going to have a lot of fun tonight. We have a special guest, and you're already seeing them from the Pause for Fibro. Crystal from Veteran Voices for Fibromyalgia is here. Carrie, Danielle. Hello, everyone. How are you all doing?
Good, just tired. ready for Saturday Night Live though.
I didn't even realize you were asking me how I'm doing. It's Saturday morning here and I still haven't had my coffee.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. It's Sunday morning where you're at. So while we're shutting down, you're needing to get caffeinated. And look who we have. Special guest King Cody and the Pause for Fibro team.
Yes, I got a couple little furry friends with me tonight, and tuning in from Cleveland, Ohio, for the Fibromyalgia Community Conference. And this evening, we're bringing you a special informational session with Carrie Kellenberger and Fibro May, all the way from Taiwan. And they're going to share their experiences living with fibromyalgia and other chronic conditions and all the advocacy and awareness work they do in Taiwan to support individuals in Taiwan living with fibromyalgia, but their efforts have been breaking barriers and have reached the shores of the United States. So without further ado, we roll the video.
And I'm Carrie Kellenberger from My Silver Worlds. Today's interview is my second interview for our Fibro World Map and our second annual Fibromyalgia Community Conference hosted by Support Fibromyalgia Network and Friends, aka Team Fibro. So today I'm introducing a very special guest. Fibro May, as she is known in Taiwan, is chairwoman of TFA, which is the Taiwan Fibromyalgia Association. I stumbled across her work in the fibromyalgia community in 2020 after looking for information to see if anyone else was covering all things related to fibromyalgia in Taiwan. And that's how I found May. So we met briefly in person at a very informal awareness picnic event that I hosted just as the pandemic was hitting in Taiwan. But she's actually the only fibromyalgia advocate I've met in real life. So let's get things started. Hi, May. It's so good to see you again after all this time. I know you've been very busy since we last spoke, and I'm so glad you had time to join us today for our second annual Fibromyalgia Community Conference. I think it's really important for others to know that Taiwan has a large fibromyalgia community and that advocates like us are working hard to ensure people have information and understanding about fibromyalgia. So let's get started. May, would you like to tell us a little about yourself and a little bit about your journey?
Okay. Hi, Carrie. It's good to see you again after several years of pandemics that kind of put us at bay. Sure. Let me tell you something about myself. I actually received my fibromyalgia diagnosis roughly around September 2015. And during that time, I was suffering from a major flare at the time. So, you can think of all the stabbing, piercing, electrifying pain that kind of just runs through all over your body from head to toe. Obviously, I wasn't able to walk too much. Anyway, my mom took me to see a rheumatologist. I never knew what rheumatologist is. I thought that was for someone who might be old folk who would see it. At the time, I was only in my 30s, so I didn't think I would need to see one. Anyway, I had a talk with the doctor. The doctor thought I might have some pain because of the different allergies that I have. So he was going to prescribe some medications for me, but I told doctor, no, you don't understand. It is not like the allergies that I used to have. I had allergies all my life, and it is nothing like the allergies. So that kind of caught the doctor by surprise. So he's asked me to stand up, pushed me on the pain points. And then I told him where I was aching and hurting. So he suspected that I might have fibromyalgia, but of course, he will have to run some testings before he could give me the diagnosis. He handed me a little handbook. I no longer have that little handbook, like the purple handbook, that's written in Chinese that kind of tell you what the fibromyalgia is. So basically, I was given some pain medications, try to help to seduce the pain issues that I was having at the time, and then came back in a few weeks to get my test result. Of course, everything came back positive. Everything was looking good, right? I mean, you can't see anything from the blood test or the imagings and etc. So I was formally given this diagnosis. So I was put on various different kinds of medication. As you know, we need to get a combination of different things. And there's a lot of trial and error. So there's a lot of going back to the doctor's office and provide feedback, what worked, what didn't work, etc. And then I also, in addition to seeing the rheumatologist, I also go to see the therapy, the physical therapist, and also Chinese medicine doctors, and also getting the acupunctures, etc. I even went to take on a 8 weeks. What's the 8 weeks mindfulness stress reduction course? Just so just anything that I could get my hands on, trying to manage my pain and discomfort. And I was in my 30s. I was walking slower than my mother, who was in her late 60s. And it was just difficult to comprehend that I became the person that I was. And then anyway, the flare continued to persist in the next few years. There's like the small flare or the big flare. There's never any break in between. So that was, I guess that was the condition that I was in. And then just about 2 or 3 years ago, during one of my doctor's visit, I showed my roommate my swollen foot. My knees was a bit swollen as well. My fingers were painful. My wrist was painful to the touch. So the doctor was kind of shocked to see me progressing to that stage, because he'd been seeing me for several years already. As we know, I mean, as much as we read about it, it's a non-progressive. Fibromyalgia is a non-progressive disease, if you can call it. So, but my physical symptom was showing something else. So, of course, the doctor has suspected I had rheumatoid arthritis. And then once again, he sent me off to get some testings based on the clinical observations and the imaging, like the sonograms, the x-rays, the blood test. The doctor confirmed that I do have RA. I often refer to the fibromyalgia and rheumatoid arthritis as the evil twins that live within my body. So that's just a quick
overview.
Yeah, exactly. A quick overview of my body.
I promise there are going to be so many people watching your video and nodding their heads along to what you've said. Like, I was jotting notes down as you were writing. So like the thing that you mentioned about the allergies and everything, we talked a little bit about that before we started our video today. And like, I grew up, I had crazy allergies as a child. I had allergies to over 200 things. And when I did my allergy tests, they were like, oh, you're one of those people that's allergic to everything. just everything. So just stay away from all of it. And I think our stories are reversed, because you got your fibro diagnosis first and then got your RA diagnosis. And I got my AXE-SPA diagnosis first, with swollen feet and swollen knees and swollen hands, and my joints were just a mess. And then I got my fibro diagnosis. So I never know, I think the fibro came first, but not sure. I really don't. I suspect that I had fibro as a child, and it just got kicked into high gear with a virus, like so many of us do. And then the AS also was kicked into gear.
Right.
So yeah, it's always so similar when you talk to other fibro advocates and you realize they've got the same stories. And even though every patient is different, there are so many similarities that you can't find comfort in knowing that you're not alone, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Yep.
I thought it was really interesting too that you mentioned the trial and error process with medications. I have hated that part of the process. I'm not actually taking any fibro medications now because I don't react or respond to them very well. And you also mentioned PT and PCM. For viewers that are listening, TCM is traditional Chinese medicine, and in Taiwan, we do that. It's just part of the health journey here. And acupuncture as well, which I had a very strange reaction to. So it really does show you leave no stone unturned trying to get a grip on this disease. It just ruins your life, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It dominates your life.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I mean, the words that I could think of is if I feel like my life was robbed by this fibromyalgia. I mean, it left me a completely different person than what I used to be. I at that time I thought, I had my full life ahead of me. I was ready to go travel to different parts of the world. I enjoy my work. I wanted to do more and this and that. And then everything just kind of hold to the stop. And you kind of being handed a sentence of fibromyalgia, if I could say that. I mean, you just don't know what this thing that just embark upon you. And I am looking back, I would think I was actually experiencing symptoms of fibromyalgia many years ago prior to actually getting this diagnosis. But then the doctor was treating me of different things, right? When I had my neck pain, they took an x-ray, gave me a pain pill. When I have a headache, when I have this and that, they just give me a different thing. But then when everything kind of came together, I guess that's what fibromyalgia is,
Yeah, and that's the thing. You meet so many people and they've got IBS, or they've got migraines, or they've got allergies, or they've got growing pains, or they've got muscle twitches or electric shocks. And people are getting treated for all these different things, but then you run into doctors that don't realize it's one thing, it's fibro. So, I meet a lot of patients that are getting treated for a bunch of different symptoms, and they don't realize that they've got fibro until later. And then you add in an autoimmune arthritis diagnosis, like rheumatoid arthritis or ankylosing spondylitis, which we now call axial spondyloarthritis. That blew my world open. Like, I feel like, please excuse my cat. Free, they'll be up in my face. But I often find, when I was younger, I felt like I could function with it better because you have the energy of youth. So I was in pain, but I thought it was normal. Like when I went out for a run or went to the gym and then came back, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm in so much pain. I just thought everybody felt that way. And
people tell you that's normal, that when after exercise you get pain.
Right. When my dad is a coach and he's like, oh, well, it's normal to feel, like sore and tired after workout. And I'm like, but you don't understand. Like I'd be sitting down on the ground and would have terrible leg cramps. And nobody else on the team doing that. And my dad was like, oh, that's just how your body is. And I'm like, I knew there was something wrong, but my parents didn't think that somebody my age in my teenage years could be sick. And your comment about your mom moving faster than you do, I don't know what your mom's like. My mom is a master swimmer, and at 76, she's like still out in the lake swimming, and I'm like struggling to get to the end of the driveway.
Speaking of that, people say that, it's fun to go for a swim. But, I'm the person who can never swim. My body is so stiff and so dense. So when I go into the water, I tend to sink instead of float. And I took several swimming lessons, even as a child or when I was in my adulthood, I still can never master the basic swimming because my body is so stiff. And then I'll be like, trying to be like swimming as though I was drowning in the water. It's just like it's kind of pitiful.
Oh, but some people are like that. I mean, I was a good swimmer, and I didn't have any problems with it. I love being in the water, but my problems with my ears, like I cannot get any water in my ears at all, or I'll get crazy ear infections. And then I'm literally at the ENT like 3 times a week getting my ears taken care of. So yeah, like when people casually suggest swimming, I'm like, not all of us love swimming,
Exactly.
So we kind of already touched a little bit on my second question for you, which is how have your experiences with fibromyalgia and your other diagnoses affected you on a personal level? And you kind of told us a little bit about that with your mom. I was wondering, like, could you tell us a little bit about how it has affected your personal life in terms of maybe your friendships or maybe your ability to work?
So basically, when my roommate gave me the diagnosis, at first I was relieved just to have a name for the different conditions that I have. So I feel like, I think I'm in the right track. I don't have to continue to search, right? But then the reality quickly sink in because there is you start to grieve for the loss of the former me, right? Because this is a new body that you no longer understand, because it functions differently from everything that you know prior to that. So basically, I had to cut off my social activities. I mean, I was just too exhausted. The little things, even going to the physical therapist, will exhaust me tremendously. I'll be like, like lying on the couch for 3 days, then go back to the next session. Told the doctor I just can't do it. It is not helping because the PDs actually, is giving me more stress and more exertion than what was he like helping me, right? So that kind of went out the door. So basically, I have to my friendship. I don't think I reach out to anyone. I don't think people understand it, and I didn't want to bother to explain what it is, because first of all, it's nobody's business because I don't want to get advice or pointers from other people because they don't really understand what is being this person that I am. I didn't cause it; it just kind of came to me. I did not. I'm not, and also I'm not like one of the person who suffered from depression and then became fibro. So I did not have those things, those factors that contributing to my fibromyalgia symptoms. So, but I guess I was lucky because I'm fluent in English, so I was able to do some research on the internet to find information. And I think one of the things that really caught my eyes, the whole concept of pacing. So there was a poem, or I guess a poem that you can say that something about counting your spoons. And that whole story that kind of teach you that you have to understand you only have so many spoons in a day. And you really have to pace yourself to know and prioritize the things you have to do. You're no longer the person who can do it all or trying to fit everything within a very short time frame or whatever. Things are just completely different. So, I just kind of came to accept into that. There's a restriction to the new me. I'm confined now in this new body, so I figure I need to find ways to work with it.
And that's all we can do. I'm so glad you mentioned the spoon theory too, because that really helped me understand how to allocate the limited energy that I have into different activities that I'm engaging in each day. And honestly, like, the older that I've gotten, like I'm 48 now, the older I've gotten, the worse the fibro has gotten. Like, it's just taking a lot more energy out of me. So I'm at the point now where I don't really leave my home much. I work from home and do advocacy from home, but I don't see my friends. I'm usually too sick to spend more than an hour or two with people. Like my relationship with my husband, and not that I want to go into that too deeply, but like for us to go out for like a short dinner, like a 90-minute dinner is rare. And then we go, and then, I take my pillow and, I go in and people are like looking at me, and it really just changes your whole life. And then you've got to count these spoons to get, if you do decide to leave your house, you go over to 7-Eleven to get some tea or something like that. That all takes it out of you. So yeah, it's really a tough thing to manage, isn't it?
That's right. That's right. You just have to adjust your daily routine and to accommodate this new body.
So you already jumped. It's almost like you're reading my mind. You've already jumped into the third question that I had for you, which is about coping techniques that you're using to help with your day-to-day life with fibromyalgia. So we've talked a little bit about pacing. What are some other things that you find help you, or maybe some of the people that you're associated with through your nonprofit organization?
So basically, there are a few things that I do wanted to share. First, I know I am a person highly sensitive to different things, like weather changes, the heat, the temperature changes, the changes in the parameters, the humidity, all that things you can't control. I'm sensitive to. And also this loud sounds, it hurts my ear for some reason. It has always been that, like even when I was in my teenagers. And the scent, strong scent, I remember sitting in high school class, you have classmates with like huge perfumes scent. Oh my, me running, and I was
Like,
so
oh no.
like kind of like gave me the running nose and a major headache, and then you had no idea what's going on in class. So I know I know I'm kind of, I have somewhat, somehow I have this highly sensitive body, and of course the stress level will also contribute to the pain conditions in my body. So I do, knowing those parameters, I try to stay away from them the best way I can. Right. You just try not to get those triggers so you don't get pain. That's how I figure. For those like weather changes that I can't control, I like you, I also stay indoor a lot of time, mainly my house. I joke with my doctors. I told my doctor, I create a bubble for me, right? So in this bubbles, I have space heaters, I have ACs, I turn on my dehumidifiers all year round, so I could get the humidity level down to like the 50-60%. That's most comfortable for the body. And
Right.
I also, right, but for the thermometers changes, I can't really do anything. So I sometimes get severe like migraine headache. I'll feel like all like just, so you want to. At times I was throw up because somehow it just affects your head so much that you get the dizziness and etc. And you just throw up.
I
So
thought Taiwan was really trying to like have a real fun with us this summer with all that typhoon activity.
all right, yeah.
We're having technical difficulties, so we will be right back. We're going to fix this. We'll be right back.
I'm Carrie Kellenberger from My Silver Worlds. Today,
Year-round treatment.
the last 2 days for me have been just perfect. But if it goes below that or if it goes up, I'm going to be in trouble for sure. And it's weather's a big trigger for me, just like stress and hormones are also a big trigger for me as well.
Right.
I actually need to go and see. That's a whole other conversation we have, but I definitely need to get my thyroid checked for sure because I suspect something is going on.
I see. Yeah.
So
So
what-
I think see those are the triggers that I have observed, and then I realize those are the triggers. So I do the best to control them. But I also try not to get myself sick by going to the crowd. I mean, not that I can, but so anyway, I just avoid going to a crowd so I don't catch any bug or whatever that's floating out there. I know if I get sick from something, my pain level will definitely be elevated, and it will put me in a different situations, in more severe situation than I would like. So, yep.
Yeah, that's true. It's too people-y out there, in my opinion. Way too many people outside. I don't like putting myself in big crowds of people either. Like I moved out of Taipei, and I have never been so glad to move out of a city in my life. Like I remember going to Ximending one day and was like, oh my gosh, like there are so many people here. Like I just got in a taxi and went back home. I just thought, no, I'm not dealing with that today. I'm not gonna put myself through it because getting sick would just make things much worse. So
Yeah, definitely. You know what? I had lived in Taipei for a few years for work. But then ever since I left Taipei, whenever I have to go in for something, I can't wait to get out. I feel like I'm almost having a claustrophobic or something. There's too many people and like up in your face, etc. So yeah.
maybe that goes back to the highly sensitive person thing. Like I'm also a highly sensitive person. I'm an introverted extrovert. So I don't mind being around people for small periods of time, but I actually do a lot better on my own with my cats and my books and my pens and just doing quiet activities. That's how I recharge my spoons. I can go out and be friendly, but I find it takes a lot of effort.
Right.
I don't know. It's just too much. I apologize. Something here is binging, and I thought I had it all turned off. So my apologies for the extra ping noises. So now that we talked a little bit about triggers and that sort of thing, where have you, I mean, obviously you've talked to other people here that have fibromyalgia, and we know that 3 to 4% of the population has fibromyalgia, and Taiwan has a large fibromyalgia community. Where have you been able to find support and understanding aside from your doctor?
So I guess when I first got my diagnosis, I tried to find things here locally in Taiwan to see what's out there, right? Aside from the little handbook that the doctor had handed to me, I quickly realized there wasn't too much on the topic. So there's very few media coverage, if there is any. They would refer that to they would call it like the princess syndromes, right? So there, of course, I think for some people they know there's a story behind the this what princess syndrome is, but that's definitely it's more of a negative label put on us rather than an accurate descriptions. So I did a lot of reading on the internet. So information mostly came from the U.S. and overseas, I should say. So basically, and then I try to comprehend as much as I could at the time, even though sometimes your mind is just not there. It's hard to comprehend what you are reading. So basically, I did came across several books. Of course, my doctor recommended a few books for me to read, like about neuroplasticities and also the mindfulness. So that's why I took the mindfulness to manage my stress and hopefully to manage this pain that's associated with fibromyalgia. So I did came across this book. I don't know if you could see it.
Pop it up here.
Like this.
Oh, I could just, the Complete Fibromyalgia Guide. Who wrote it?
So this is by two doctors from Canada, Dr. Louise McCriddles and Dr. Elson Bested. So I came across this book. I thought it was very comprehensive and it was easy to read. Most important is easy to comprehend for the mindset that I was in. So I actually proposed to talk to my roomie. I said, can you take a look at this book, whether or not this book is good, informative. If it is, then I would like to try to translate into Chinese. And for the local fibromyalgia patients and friends and family to read. I mean, of course, I could just read this book on my own. That benefit me, right? But I also thought, it would be beneficial if there is some kind of support community that's existing. People has a more information, knowledge coming forth, so that we can all feel better together, right? So it was a very simple mindset. So my doctor thought it was a good book, good read, easy to understand. So we did work on this translation and then have it published. I don't know if you could see that.
It's hard to see it with your
My finger.
Got your background thing on.
Okay.
But you know what I would love to do?
I'll take a picture.
Photos of them afterwards, because I'm going to take some quotes from your presentation so that we can highlight the work that you're doing with Taiwan Fibromyalgia Association, and I'll pop your book references into the quotes as well, and also introduce you to the Canadian Fibromyalgia Association.
Okay.
They'll be thrilled when you're reading Canadian books, as am I. Being Canadian.
It's really good book. I thought it was really useful book, and I have ever since it was. I mean, it's a funny thing. I actually became involved in doing the translation because the publisher couldn't find a specialist to do the translations. So I thought that was kind of funny for it. Usually they have the medical professions to do the translation because it is a highly specialized field, but they couldn't find anyone to translate. So I did the work, and then my rooming helped to check with the manuscript. So.
Awesome. Yes, I should also mention that for people that are watching our video, that you are an amazing translator, and Crystal Kent at the Fibromyalgia Pain Chronicle still talks to this day about you translating a bunch of work for her Ohio proclamations and for fibromyalgia, the Chinese fibromyalgia community. So it's so amazing that we've got you as a resource, but I also want to be mindful of your time, because translating takes a lot of work. I don't know how to do it with the brain fog, but then again, I don't know sometimes how I navigate my healthcare in the limited Chinese that I have. That's not very great. I'm not fluent the way you're fluent in English. Okay, so let's switch gears here, because our talk is flying by so fast.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I want to make sure that we highlight the work that we're doing here in Taiwan. So we are trying to bring Taiwan's active fibromyalgia community into the spotlight to ensure that people understand we're here and we're raising awareness as best we can. And over the years, I'm frequently surprised by the number of research studies that are coming from Taiwan, specifically from Taichung, on fibromyalgia. I don't know if you've noticed those or not, but Dr. Generva Lipton, who is also going to be a community speaker for us at this event, she sources Taiwan studies all the time. So I can't wait to introduce both of you so that you can chat her about it. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about the work that Taiwan Fibromyalgia Association is doing. Why don't you give us an introduction of Taiwan Fibromyalgia Association and how you got things started?
So this Taiwan Fibromyalgia Association, what we call TFA for short, basically it was founded in 2016. So it was prior to that, there just several people like me who are searching on the social media or in the internet trying to find someone like them with fibromyalgia. So we kind of form ourselves a little group, right? And then we were told that you really can't exert any kind of influence without being having an association. So that's why we form this TFA. So that our hope is that we could have our own agenda, and also hopefully we can have some influence on the topic. So basically, our TFA is accredited by the executive branch of the government. So we are actually under the National Health Institute. So it's a full official organization, NPO. And we're very fortunate that we have several medical practitioners who serve as our advisors. They are stunt supporters in doing researching and also treating the fibromyalgia patients. And I know as much as I'm aware, I think there are people in different specialties that are doing research. They could be in the pain management area, neurologists, nursing, or even the allergy and rheumatology. So there are different specialists that are doing fibromyalgia research. Of course, this is a very niche section of the research compared to other disease out there. So we need to be kind to willing to to do research on this topic. So we do try to foster a stronger connection with those medical advisors, and then we also focus on building a platform. So it's like a peer-to-peer support group that to allow the FMA patients and their friends and family to join, so that there is a place where they can exchange for information and also learn from the path that we have gone down before, and where not to repeat and go after. And hopefully that will save them some times and reduce the agonies that they found along the ways. So that's what TFA is doing.
Excellent. So you're just like me. I mean, you got your diagnosis and you turned right around and started getting involved in advocacy right away, because you got your diagnosis in 2015, right?
Yep.
And then boom, you went right into Taiwan Fibromyalgia Association. That is representative of the patient voice, the power of patient advocacy. That's amazing that you guys have been able to do so much. I found your organization through, I think you did an interview with the Taipei Times in 2018 or 2019, and I was Googling, fibromyalgia in Taiwan. Where can I find people here? I obviously I'm not fluent enough, I feel, to be involved in reading what's happening in Taiwanese groups. I can read a little bit of it, but not enough to converse, and I can't write in Chinese. But you did an interview with the Taipei Times, and it was listed in Google, and that's how I found your email. And I reached out, and you got right back to me. I was like, yeah. Someone else got fibro here.
I think that interview might be done by my predecessors. I think during that time I was too sick to be involved in some of the activities. So there's a few people who had approached legislators who had supported us, and then trying to call for discussions, having a dialogue with the National Health Institute, and trying to have some kind of conversation about having more support for the fibromyalgia patients. I think we did learn quite a bit from those experiences, and that's one. And also, one of the takeaway from those session was it was important to have an association of our own in order to work with those government organizations.
Right. Yeah. I think you're aware of some of the work that I've been doing with the legislators that we're working with on Taiwan Disability Inclusion Campaign.
Mm-hmm.
We're so lucky that we have legislators that will listen and work with us. The process is very different. Like, I often look at what Crystal and Melissa and those gals are doing in North America, and they get these proclamations where the cities recognize fibromyalgia. And I'm like, I don't think that happens in Taiwan.
No, it doesn't work that way.
It's totally different, but we're still making an impact here, which I think is fantastic. So I'm sorry that you weren't involved with that interview for the Taipei Times with your predecessor, but you were the person that actually responded to my email, and that's how we were connected. And I am grateful to this day that you wrote back. Your English is as good as it is. So I want to shift gears here a little bit. We've talked a little bit about how fibromyalgia is handled in the Taiwan healthcare system. My personal observations, which are just observations, and obviously my observation is different to anybody else's viewpoint. I'm not Taiwanese, but I feel personally that we have a great healthcare system here, and we're very lucky to have it. But I feel that doctors don't have enough time to educate their patients about life with fibromyalgia, and that's where patients like us come into play. I've noticed that we're offered medications and they push the same medications over and over again, but doctors don't talk about those lifestyle changes with us because our system is overwhelmed. The average patient only gets 7 minutes of time with their rheumatologist, and they're out the door, and you're kind of navigating it on your own. So do you feel the same, or do you feel that
Hello, everyone. I just want to apologize for the technical difficulties. This Fibro nerd has been struggling since we started this conference. I don't know what happened. So, I think what we're going to do, we're going to switch gears. We're going to get the presentation loaded up on a separate computer. But what I want to do is, Carrie, if you're ready to present, that would be fantastic because then we can bring Carrie on to start her presentation. And Carrie will go through the presentation. I'll have Crystal and Danielle do some Q&A with her. And then we can play the entire video again from May and Carrie to end the session. So that way we'll get it uploaded on a different computer. How does that sound for everybody backstage? You see me thumbs up? Does that work, Carrie? Are you ready?
Sure.
I apologize so much. Is it the weather? What is happening? It's
I don't know, but I mean,
great. I don't know what that means.
unexpected things happen with fibromyalgia, so you just have to roll with it, right?
Well, now my computer has fibromyalgia. It's been
All I want
fine
to
until
remind
the
you-
start of the conference. So some weird things are happening. But Carrie, let's get you started because even as I try to troubleshoot, I'm going to disconnect everything for all our fibromyalgia friends out there. Carrie will continue the presentation, and then at the end, can have Crystal and Danielle come up and do a Q&A. They'll close, and then we'll close it out again with May and Carrie's video. How does that sound to everybody? We good?
That sounds great. Let's let Saturday Night Live roll on.
Oh my goodness. I'm good. I would say I really want a pizza right now, everybody, but I have to avoid all of that. Okay, Carrie, I'll let you take it away.
All right. Okay. Well, for full disclosure, I'm also having technical difficulties over here. My mouse is sticky, so I'm really hoping that I don't have any problems moving into slides. I hope that you enjoyed. We got through almost all of May's interview before we ran into technical difficulties. So there is actually just about 10 more minutes of that interview to go. And then you'll be able to watch the rest of it. I know May is watching with us right now. So May, I'm sending you a big hug. Thank you so much. You are just an amazing person and I adore you. So let me get on with my presentation. Oh, this is the wrong presentation. This is my presentation from last year. So let me switch this over here.
I guess this is what's going on today.
This is happening. That's the 2022 presentation. So let me.
Okay, so let me remove that for you. And then you can get the other one added too. And I did want to thank May so much for the interview, and Carrie for setting it up and just learning too about what is happening and learning about living in Taiwan with fibromyalgia, the advocacy work, the support. And again, just feeling this community connection for what May was talking about. And May, I did say that I'm super sensitive to these smells as well. I think so many of us can relate. So Carrie, as you find that presentation, what I'll do too is do some shout outs. Oh, Karen, yes.
There.
Someone touched the duck. The duck is like out for revenge tonight. Is out for revenge on Saturday. I guess maybe the duck wants to go and relax a little bit. So we'll get everybody.
I've already uploaded the new presentation, so it should be there waiting. It's called the Nitty Gritty Deep. That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
Well, I will let you start then, and I will get backstage.
All right. Okay. Take a break and have a drink and order a pizza.
Oh no, it's so late. I got to study. No pizza yet.
Right, no exams. All right. I will hustle for you, Melissa.
Well, we're good. We're good because I'll figure things out in the background while you're presenting. And then again, we'll re-show the entire video for everyone as well.
That's great. All right. Okay. Let's take it away then. Okay, so hello, Fibro friends. Welcome to my several worlds. I'm Carrie Kellenberger, tuning in from beautiful Taiwan on Sunday morning. I'm so pleased to be here today. Thank you so much to Melissa and the rest of the team at Support Fibromyalgia Network for having me back at our second annual Fibromyalgia Community Conference. I know you ladies have had a long day, so I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart that you are staying up to do this with me. It's been almost a 12-hour day for you guys, as far as I know. I can't believe I've slept while you guys have continued on with this. So to everybody who is watching, some of you might know me and some of you won't. Let me make a quick introduction and review to bring you up to speed on who I am and what I do. You've likely already heard a lot about life with fibromyalgia and what to expect from previous presenters, and there's so much more to come this week. Today was just the tip of the iceberg. So I'm going to do a quick outline about who I am and what I do, and then I'm going to go into some of the nitty-gritty details about life with fibromyalgia that I've experienced this summer. I have had these symptoms before, but we don't talk about them a lot. So I wanted to make sure that I included them in my presentation today. And the other thing that I really want to focus on is describing pain language and recording pain for your doctors. I often forget as a veteran patient to take things back to the beginning because new fibromyalgia patients are always coming in on the scene and they don't know where to start. So one of the things that I really have to remember is not to jump into advanced topics and to sometimes take it back to the beginning. And sometimes I need that reminder as well. And I'm going to tell you why I need those reminders later. So as I mentioned, I'm going to talk a little bit about the odd symptoms of life with fibromyalgia because you should know about them. And to this day, I still get veteran advocates who are saying things like, I didn't know this, or I have this and I didn't know there was a name for it, or I didn't know it was common, or even better, I can't wait to take this back to the community or my support group. All right, so as I've mentioned, I'm having sticky mouse problems today. All right, so bear with me on the sticky mouse stuff. So as I mentioned before, I'm Carrie Kellenberger. I'm the author and advocate behind myseveralworlds.com and a proud member of Team Fibro. Got all my Fibro bracelets on, my Fibro t-shirt, everything else today. I'm a Canadian patient advocate and support group leader living in Taiwan. I moved to Asia in 2003, and I was working initially as an English as a second language teacher and as a professional lounge singer. And I lived in China for 3 years, and then I immigrated to beautiful Taiwan in early 2006. And I've been blogging at myseveralworlds.com since 2007, and I started advocating for chronic illness awareness in 2009. So I'm an award-winning blogger and an author. I'm an accomplished professional singer that had to give up a 20-year career in music on stage because of throat problems and voice changes due to fibromyalgia. Yes, you are going to learn a little bit more about that later on in this presentation. And I've done a lot of TV shows, everything from doing performances, live performances, to fundraisers, to reality TV shows in Chinese, which is a lot of fun, to information on life as an expat, and of course, on chronic illness and disability. And I would also like to remind you that today is December 3rd here in Taiwan. It's the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. So I'm really happy to be presenting today and doing it on such a meaningful day for everyone. All right, so next, back to my sticky slide problem. Lord love a duck, right? Melissa, I'm probably going to need your help switching that slide. So I'm really having some technical difficulties as well. Let's see. Oh, I got it. All right. And it moved to the wrong, somebody's got my back. That's what happens at Team Fibro. So thanks, ladies. My Several Worlds is about the world that I live in and the boundaries that blur between my worlds as I move through them. It started initially as a travel and culture website for family and friends about our world travels and about our life in Taiwan. And then I got sick and I had no idea where to take my highly successful travel blog. I had carved out a travel writing career, and then suddenly I couldn't use it anymore. I couldn't do anything with it anymore. And it took a really long time for me to realize that I was still on a journey. I was journeying through the kingdom of the sick, and people were interested in hearing that story. So my mission, as always, is to connect, educate, and inspire chronically ill patients around the world while providing much needed resources to patients in Asia. I never want anyone to feel the way I felt being alone in a foreign country and navigating a foreign healthcare system in a different language with no one to ask for help. By the way, I'm going to need help with my slides, girls. You guys are the best. So thank you so much. You've just come out of your hospital appointment after suffering chronic fatigue for over 3 months or maybe longer. Your doctor has just told you that you have fibromyalgia. They've likely given you 3 options for medications to help with the pain, and they've sent you on your merry way with no information or support about lifestyle changes or management, which I know you are learning about at this conference. Nevertheless, you're feeling overwhelmed and you're confused. You're grateful that you have an answer for what is causing your pain, but what happens next? First of all, if you're watching this presentation, I'm sending you a virtual hug because I know you need it. Fibro is a really, really hard thing to live with. And if you've left your appointments in tears like me, not understanding what is happening to you, and you've just learned that the relentless body-wide pain that you're experiencing has no cure, you are not alone. There are millions of us around the world who are experiencing the same thing, and we're all looking for ways to live with this beast called fibromyalgia. So this presentation is designed to help you make the best of your new life with your new not so best friend, fibromyalgia. All right, moving on to the next slide, and my mouse is just gonna be a pain in the butt today. So I received my fibromyalgia diagnosis 4 years after I got my AX-SPA diagnosis. Axial spondyloarthritis, if you caught my interview with May, is a type of inflammatory arthritis that affects your spine. It's similar to rheumatoid arthritis. It's also a real beast to live with. And I now know that I have had fibromyalgia since my teenage years. In 2012, though, I started noticing a different type of pain and fatigue that wasn't consistent with my arthritis pain, and it was affecting every aspect of my life. But of course, I just assumed it was arthritis. So I kept on going with my super duper busy life, which was exactly the wrong thing to do. And remember, I didn't know I had fibromyalgia yet. I just knew that my joints looked like monsters all the time. So I brought this new type of pain up with my rheumatologist, my diagnosing rheumatologist, and man, I miss him. He was just a great doctor in general. He's one of the top 2 doctors that I've had, and I've had a lot of doctors over the last 15 or 16 years. But unfortunately, at that time, he was retiring. So a new, younger rheumatology came in and took his place. I remember meeting her for the first time, and she wouldn't really even look me in the eyes, and she was very cold. And she didn't really establish any kind of a patient relationship with me. She just immediately changed my arthritis medications to fibro medications and announced I had fibromyalgia. She never once looked at my massively swollen and disfigured knee joints. She just moved right into fibromyalgia, and it seemed like she wasn't even interested in treating the arthritis. So even then, not knowing much, I knew that that was wrong. So I left her care, and I ended up going for a second opinion with a doctor who is well known for his work with inflammatory arthritis patients. And in 2015, I remember going into that appointment and expecting him to tell me that my arthritis was active again. And instead, he told me really bluntly that I had fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome. And my reaction to this news was nowhere near as good as it was with arthritis. Like I remember I felt shocked when I got my arthritis diagnosis. But when I heard about the fibro diagnosis, I was not expecting, 2 more diagnoses to be added onto my list. And then on top of that, imagine this doctor just suddenly decided as well that I didn't have SPA because I was a woman. So he took my arthritis diagnosis off my paperwork because he didn't believe that women could get my type of AS. And instead, he focused on treating the anxious young woman in front of him for fibromyalgia and depression. I was not depressed at that first appointment with him. I was in pain and I needed his help. And today we know that research and studies show that there is a strong overlap of inflammatory arthritis patients who have fibromyalgia. In fact, several spondyloarthritis and fibromyalgia abstracts at the American College of Rheumatology last month at the Convergence, they highlighted that these diseases often mimic each other and they go hand in hand, and they are often missed or misdiagnosed or not treated. So my case, my story is a classic case of exactly what can go wrong when you're with doctors that don't know what to do, or with doctors that aren't up to date on the latest research. I saw myself highlighted in many of the patient studies that were highlighted in this year's rheumatology summits. And I also want to say that over the last couple of days, with the presentations we've been watching with our doctors, I've seen myself in their presentations as well. So it's great to be validated by our doctors here at the second Fibromyalgia Community Conference. But that doctor that I was seeing earlier, he turned out to be very patronizing and condescending, which is the worst thing a patient in pain can encounter when they need help. And these two doctors, the doctor that took over from my diagnosing doctor and the second one, they really did a lot of damage to my health and my mental well-being. My world fell apart. I remember crying really hard when I left his office, and I fell into a really deep depression that lasted 2 years. And I don't know why I stayed with him, but I was under his care from middle of 2015 until 2018, when I finally left him because my inflammatory arthritis became really active again. And he just bluntly announced in an appointment one day that he couldn't help me anymore. And I suspect that maybe he realized that he had been wrong about my arthritis and was treating me for the wrong thing. I've never had a doctor dump me before, by the way. It's a horrible thing to have a doctor just give up on you. So that left me to find another new rheumatologist. And by that time, I knew what I was looking for. And it was not doctors who were going to gaslight me and who were out of their depth. So my primary reason for seeking out my next rheumatologist was still the same as the others. I wanted to get help for my disabling arthritis, but I also was really hoping that the next doctor I went to was going to know a little bit more about how to treat my fibromyalgia and my ME. So I've just set the stage for this presentation. Maybe you're wondering who this presentation is for. Honestly, it doesn't matter where you are on your fibromyalgia journey. Maybe you're a new patient who is just getting started on your fibromyalgia journey. Maybe you're just joining us for the first time. Maybe you're 10 years into your diagnosis and you think you've got most of it figured out and you're here to cheer others on, or you're here to learn a little bit more. Maybe you're like me. Maybe you're 20 years into it and thinking, oh, bless their purple team fibro hearts. I remember that stage of my life when I was still burning through all options trying to get my life back. And I remember that stage of my illness. And that's where I'm at, by the way. So regardless of where you are on your journey, I hope that at some point during this presentation, you're going to be saying, that's me. That's me. That's my life. And I hope that you resonate with that. All right. So I'm going to try and switch over here to the next slide. All I'm doing is making my text bigger, which is helping. All right, so we're going to talk about pain language and how to convey your pain language to your medical team today. And we're also going to cover some of the most popular topics on My Several Worlds and talk about things like paresthesia, which is electric shock pain. We're going to talk about costochondritis. We're going to talk about throat pain and hoarse voice. And we're going to acknowledge a little bit about how pain changes us and how to accept and cope with pain. And obviously, this is just the tip of the iceberg with fibromyalgia, by the way. We all know that fibromyalgia has over 300 symptoms, and we could talk about them forever. So why am I mentioning these three things specifically? It's because they are actually quite common. And I recently went through them this summer after my trip back to Taiwan. I finally calmed my central nervous system down enough to speak about it. And obviously, when I mention these things online in my support groups or on my social media platforms, they tend to create conversations. And here at Team Fibro, we are all about presentations. So I'm not here to explain the medical reasons why. I'm here to explain what it feels like and to remind you that you're not alone. And I also want to provide you with some basic tools to work with for each of these painful symptoms highlighted on this slide. All right, we're moving on to the next one. So we all know that fibromyalgia advocates play an important role in educating other fibromyalgia advocates. First of all, there is a lack of knowledgeable doctors in fibromyalgia in general, and I was so glad to hear Dr. Lenz mention this last night. Not at this conference. Obviously, we've got the best fibromyalgia doctors in the world at this conference for you to learn from. But in general, there is a shortage of rheumatologists in the world today. This shortage has been highlighted at many health summits over the last couple of years. Our doctors are burned out and they're overworked, which is why this presentation is important, because having these tools helps you help your doctor and helps you make the most of the limited time that we get with our doctors. And also, there is a lack of patient knowledge in terms of lifestyle changes, which you are also learning about at this conference, especially with patients in rural areas and low to middle income countries. Patients don't get the information that they need in these areas. They don't know how to access help. Doctors in these areas often aren't up to date as well. So you're going to hear from many experts over the next 10 days that will tell you that changing your lifestyle is of the utmost importance. And we hope that we can help you with this. We really need to learn to slow down and find ways to calm the central nervous system. And among many of the other things that you're going to learn about at this conference, we're also going to learn that there don't seem to be a lot of new treatments coming out for fibromyalgia. And the conferences that I've attended this year so far, it seems like there is not a whole bunch of new information being presented at some of the larger summits, which is why I'm so excited to see our doctors that are presenting over these next 10 days. We do have some FDA approved apps that are coming out. This presentation is not about apps. I do see pros and cons with apps, but as I said, this presentation isn't about them. But stay tuned because you never know. I'm sure Melissa and Brandy and I will be exploring this further after this conference. So what do fibromyalgia patients do when they learn they have fibromyalgia? Honestly, we often turn to other patients. You've just heard about me reaching out to Fibromay to find out what's happening in the fibromyalgia community here in Taiwan. So that's a great example of it. Patients turn to other patients. We rely on other patients and veteran patients and nonprofit organizations like Support Fibromyalgia to get new information. So that's just a great thing to remember. And please feel free to reach out to any of us at any time. All right. And you all know that I'm a quote girl. So this is a loose quote that I've reworded slightly, but it echoes the words of the great and incredible Michael J. Fox, Remember, you are the expert in terms of what you are living with. Your voice matters, and only you can advocate for yourself. So let's learn how to do that a little bit better. As a veteran patient in Taiwan and an advocate, the question I get asked often whenever I post about living with chronic pain is, how do I describe my pain to my doctor? When I first started down this road decades ago, I didn't have this knowledge to explain my pain until I was years into my health journey. Having that information then, when all of this started for me, other than me just going to my doctor and saying it hurts, it would have been immensely beneficial to me and to my medical team. So today's presentation is it helps to give you words that you can add to your vocabulary to explain different kinds of pain. And it also will give you different tips and advice on how to navigate your appointments like a fibromyalgia boss. And being able to describe your pain to medical professionals is a task that many patients struggle with. For years, I struggled to describe the different types of pain I was experiencing, first with inflammatory arthritis. Then I had to come up with a whole new set of words for fibromyalgia. And then when certain things started happening with fibromyalgia that were unexplainable, I had to come up with more words and really had to look at honing down my language again to ensure that my doctor understood what was happening. So the next slide is a slide of word charts. Sorry, a slide with words on it. It's a word chart. So this slide provides you with some words you can use at your appointments while also providing some additional tips to help you find your voice. And also, once you've figured out words that you can use to describe the different kinds of pains that we experience with fibromyalgia, processing what is happening to you becomes a lot easier, and it helps you to navigate your health appointments. By the way, if anybody is thinking this image is really cool, I made this illustration through AI. I asked AI to put together an image of a woman experiencing many different kinds of pain, and this is what AI came up with for me. So that's AI for you. You gotta love technology, although not tonight with all the problems we're running into. All right, so the most common complaint that I hear is that patients don't feel heard or validated. And I even noticed this last night during the presentations in the comments that were happening in YouTube and on Facebook, is that finding somebody to listen or that was understanding what we were going through is tough. It's true that there is often a disconnect between doctor and patients. And I illustrated that with my story at the beginning of this presentation. I do believe that one part of that disconnect is related to language and not using the right language or having the right tools for our appointments. So let's learn some simple tools we can use at our appointments to ensure we're giving medical professionals the right information to treat you. And if they're not listening to you, well, then I'm sure you know the drill. It's time to find another doctor. So let's review these words here on this slide first and keep them in mind for the next couple of slides. I want to make sure first that you see that the column on the left are sensory words. Sensory words are words that we use to describe how things feel, the sounds around us, the things we see, how things taste, and how things smell. Sensory words for pain are things like burning, crushing, drilling, stabbing, searing, scalding, sharp, shooting, wrenching, aching, cramping, radiating, penetrating, piercing, spasming, and pins and needles. And then on the right of this chart, we have affective words. And affective words are related to our emotions and our moods. So you can see those words are things like agonizing, exhausting, intense, miserable, punishing, torturing, unbearable, throbbing, gnawing, sickening, tender, tiring, heavy, terrible, and tormenting. And I hope that none of you are experiencing any of this right now. Right. So your doctor should already know the cause of your pain based on your medical records. And she or he is going to know that the cause of your pain is either from an injury or a disease. Your doctor's goal should be to minimize or eliminate your pain symptoms so you can start living your life again. Don't assume that your doctors know or remember how long you've been in pain. If you've been experiencing pain for a decade or a month or a few weeks or a couple of months or whatever, your doctor needs to be reminded and remind them regularly. So I bring up these questions as often as I can at my appointments. I'm just going to run through them here quickly with you. I've been in pain for X amount of time. My pain frequency is constant and intermittent. I also want to just take a minute here to acknowledge constant and intermittent because I also saw Dr. Lenz touch on this last night. With fibromyalgia, it seems to me like the pain is constant. It never stops. It's always there. But with arthritis, for example, my arthritis pain is intermittent. In the morning, it's really, really bad. Then it starts to lay off a little bit. I get a little bit of a break, and then it starts coming back later at night, unfortunately. And then when I wake up in the morning again, it's right back where it started. The next one is my pain lasts for X amount of time before it subsides. So again, for arthritis, usually in the morning it lasts 2 or 3 hours and then it kind of backs off a little bit. But fibro is just that drill that just keeps going. It's just a low aching body-wide pain sensation all the time. My pain occurs when I'm doing X kind of activity. So it's important to let your doctors know if your pain is escalating with activities. They need to know this information for a number of reasons. And also it's good for you to know and be able to identify when your pain is happening and when if it's related to something that you're doing. What helps to lessen your pain once it starts, and what makes your pain worse? So we know what makes our pain worse. My triggers, that sort of thing, are usually activity. Also weather, stress is a big one. We talked about that with Jill last night. And also hormones. And I'm really hoping I'm going to learn more about hormones over the next couple of days. And obviously what helps to lessen your pain once it's started. So you should be listing down any medications that help or treatments that you're doing that maybe you're finding success with. For me, sometimes I have a lot of success with acupressure. Likewise, I don't have good experiences with acupuncture. That tends to make my pain worse. So that just gives you an idea of some things that you could tell your doctor. And then, of course, obviously, where does it hurt? Be specific. So again, Dr. Lenz showed us a chart of human body last night, and this is in my presentation today. Most doctors will hand you that chart of a human body showing the front and back of the body, and they'll ask you to circle or color where you hurt. And the running comment in the fibromyalgia community is we just circle the whole thing because we hurt everywhere. But with different pain conditions, maybe it might only be affecting certain parts of your body. And then, of course, there are pain charts as well. I personally do not like pain charts. I hate it when doctors pull those pain charts out because pain is subjective. Nevertheless, it's important to try and give your doctor an idea of the level of pain you're experiencing, especially on a day-to-day basis. So think about where your pain falls on this scale most of the time. And that should give your doctor a good idea of your baseline pain. So I want to give you an outline of my baseline pain. My baseline pain on average is usually a 6 or a 7 every day. A low pain day for me is probably a 4. I have never had a no pain day since my diagnosis in 2009. I've had pain every single day. I am in a lot of pain right now. And a high pain day is 8 or 9. That means I don't get out of bed or do anything. I just be quiet and try to focus on activities that will maybe try and calm it. And if it's a day 10 or a level 10 day, I'm heading to ER for help. So that gives you an idea of how I chart my baseline pain. Okay. All right. So next slide, please. Most of the time, patients experience one or two consistent pain feelings, but some of us experience a range of sensations, as we all know. So to give you an idea, the main sensations that I have all the time with fibromyalgia are cramping, twisting, stabbing, pain with pins and needles. And that's fibro for me. But with arthritis, my arthritis pain that is fairly constant is throbbing, swollen, and inflamed tissue that aches all the time. And I'm stiff all the time. Stiffness is common in fibro and arthritis. I don't know how many of you have inflammatory arthritis. My arms are stiff, but when I compare it to what my arthritis is in my knees, it's a different type of stiffness. And the most common types of pain that we experience or that we hear about from patients are sharp, stabbing pain, extreme pain or burning sensations, or extreme cold. I don't know about you guys, but when I have this extreme cold sensation with fibromyalgia, it honestly feels like I am going into shock, like hypothermia. I get the shakes and my muscles start cramping up. I can see my muscles moving underneath my body. I need to get warm really, really, really fast. And it's a really distressing symptom for me. Likewise, throbbing, swollen, inflamed tissue, obviously sensitivity to touch. Itching is pain. Itching for me drives me crazy. I have itching all the time. I count it as pain because it's distracting and it drives me nuts. And then, of course, numbness, tingling, and pins and needles. Now, remember that word chart. You're starting to see some of these things come into focus. And the last thing I want to highlight is create a pain journal. Like, I'm giving you tools here that you can use for your pain journal. I'm showing you the pain journal in the slide. That's my pain journal that I have actually added a coloring page to. I put my support fibro page in there. I colored it and put it in my pain journal to make me smile, because when you're recording pain, you need every little smile or happy thing that you can get. But obviously, by documenting it, you can provide an easy overview of your week or your month leading up to your appointment. And then your doctor can focus their time on focusing on treatment rather than going over questions and answers with you to get what they need. Okay, so ensuring that your doctor has all of this information in advance is just a really easy way to get through some of your appointments and maximize how much time you've got with your doctor. Okay, so the next slide here is an example of my pain chart from 2018. So remember, I told you I wasn't going to spend any time on apps here, but I did want to give you a look about what an app can look like for you. So this was an app that I was using in 2015 called Manage My Pain Pro. And as you can see, it has a lot of different sections on there. I found this app really, really, really helpful when I first started seeing that doctor in 2015. Obviously, I can see why my doctor back then thought fibro. But if he had been paying attention to things that had been happening with my joints on this app or on this slide, then maybe he would have been able to focus on the arthritis a little bit. So anyways, this is what my pain looked like in 2015. And I think that apps can be really helpful for patients, especially new patients that are trying to hone in on where their pain is. Like I said, everybody's a little bit different. I don't use an app now, but this is how you can use it. And this app specifically will print out things like pie charts and bar graphs and all sorts of other things, and it helps you track your medications and all of those questions that I mentioned before. And I've got my next slide here. As I've said, I'm a quote girl, so we are all looking for someone who can help us find a better quality of life with chronic pain in the absence of a cure. All right, so now we've had a refresher. Let's dive into those nitty-gritty details that I mentioned earlier on. Okay, so what's up with fibromyalgia and electric shock pain? I have a quick story for you that I want to tell you about that has just been the gift that has kept on giving this year. It has just recently stopped. When I mentioned it in my support groups and on my Several Worlds social platforms this summer, I was really surprised to hear other patients telling me about their experiences. So here's what happened. This summer, after flying back to Taiwan from Canada on a 16-hour flight, I was brought off the plane in medical distress with a few extra friends. I had blood clots. The stress and anxiety of being treated for blood clots and deep vein thrombosis on top of the travel while being alone this summer threw me off my routine. And of course, it made my fibromyalgia rage up. So here's where the story gets really weird. I thought my kitchen sink was electrocuting me. I was not expecting to feel electric shocks from the running water in my kitchen sink. And at first, the sensation was mild. It felt like I had a paper cut. And when I was sticking my finger under the water, I'd get a little zap. And I'm like, oh, maybe I've got like a micro cut on my arm or on my finger or something. And that's why it's happening. But then it started getting worse. And I was like, is my kitchen sink electrocuting me? Is there something wrong with my kitchen sink? So I had mentioned it to my mom and my best friend at the time, and they were checking in on me every day. That's last summer because I was by myself. And they both said, Carrie, you need to call somebody and get that looked at. And my gut was telling me it was, well, me. But then I Googled electric shocks and running water and realized I needed to get it checked out ASAP. You gotta love Google, right? I mean, on top of everything else, it can be very helpful, but it can also really stress you out. So I realized I needed to call an electrician, but I'm home alone. I'm sick. I can barely walk. And I knew I couldn't explain what was happening to an electrician in Chinese at that time. Like I was barely thinking my fog was so bad. So I remembered that my next door neighbor was in construction and he speaks English. So I wheeled on over to him and he came bustling over with this weird looking thing that looks like a remote control with antenna on it. It's an electric current device, I guess. And I watched him check the sink and there was no current detected. And then he went out to our porch and he checked our heating element on the porch and there was no current detected. So then this man bravely plunged his hands underneath the running water. And I'm like, oh, he's going to get shocked. And nope, nada, he's fine. But then he watched me put my hands back under the water and I flinched. So he was like, that's strange. So he checked it again, no current. And at this point, I'm like, oh gosh, like I'm feeling pretty stupid at this point. So I thanked him profusely for his time and closed the door. And I want to give a shout out to my Middle Eastern neighbors because they have come through for me many, many times this summer. They have just been great. I hope everybody's got a great neighbor that knocks on your door a couple times a week to ask if you're still alive. And if you need anything, like they were just so sweet. So anyways, that night I started doing the dishes again and it happened again. And that is when I realized my fibromyalgia was really, really, really raging. It was messing with me big time. Usually I get electric shock pains in my legs and my chest. It often feels like I have been whipped from hips to toe. Sometimes it feels like I've been whipped from my shoulders down to my toes. Sometimes I get brain zaps, which are exactly what they sound like, but I've never had it in my hands. So of course, I looked at my pain journal and then I looked on my blog and read through some older entries and I could see that I've had this type of pain before. So that's why I'm saying record your record what you're going through, jot down what you're going through, because maybe you won't remember it when you get to it at some other point in your journey with fibromyalgia. I was sure glad that I had written about it, and I could see that I'd had this type of leg pain before in my brain, in my hands, in my legs, and in my feet. And when I mentioned it online, lots of other fibromyalgia patients were chiming in on it. So you notice now I'm using sensory and effective words here on my pain chart. And from my pain chart and my word chart, I've got spasming, pins and needles, sharp, electrifying, jolting, shooting, and intense. That is exactly what I told my doctor. And of course, he's like, oh, well, I'm pretty sure that that is your fibromyalgia, Carrie. And I was like, yeah, I think you're right. And the interesting thing that I want to mention about my current doctor, first of all, I love my doctor so much. I'm so lucky I found him last year. He is just the best. Very, very, very blessed to have him in my corner. But interestingly enough, when I went to him with this type of pain, he's like, he said, fibro is just so tricky. He said, I would rather treat arthritis patients, inflammatory arthritis patients, than fibromyalgia patients, because I know the trajectory of inflammatory arthritis, but fibromyalgia patients are all over the place. And his wife has fibromyalgia, so he gets it. And I just thought that that was such an interesting and sweet and sensitive thing for him to say or to acknowledge, that he knows how much we struggle with this. And the last thing I want to mention here, because you're looking at this weird image of me in bed with my eyes covered up and these giant headphones on, this summer, my central nervous system was out of control. And I was looking for all kinds of opportunities to try and calm my nervous system. For example, I remember looking at my phone one night and it felt like the phone screen had burned my retina. I had to turn my phone off and stop looking at it. I knew at that point that my central nervous system was just fried. So several times a day, I was putting on an eye mask and putting these giant earphones on. The reason why they're so big is I get itchy, chronic ear infections all the time. If I have anything in my ear or on my ear or around my ear infections crop up. So I need something that goes well over the ear. And then I turn white noise on. And wow, I was really surprised to find that doing several sessions of just white noise with no light really helped me a lot in calming my nervous system. And it helped me to do a little bit of meditating as well. I was also doing a lot of deep breathing during these sessions as well. And I spent a lot of time this summer in a blacked out room with no lights. That was just the only way that I could calm my nervous system. So while I'm waiting to switch over to the next slide, I want to take a couple of minutes here just to do a little bit of a deep breathing exercise because I need it. And I'm sure you probably all need it too. So let's just pause for a second and breathe in through your nose. And exhale. And again. And exhale. And one more time. I don't know why it works, but I feel better. All right, so the next thing I want to talk to you about is costochondritis. So costochondritis is easily one of the most painful symptoms I have with life with spondyloarthritis and fibromyalgia. It occurs in both. Chest wall pain and inflammation happens with both of these. So you're probably wondering why I'm mentioning it in a fibromyalgia conference. I'm mentioning it because it was active this summer and it was the fibromyalgia that caused it this summer, not my arthritis. And I can't speak for every patient, but I want to mention what happens with me. When costochondritis hits me when I'm having a fibromyalgia flare-up, I just get the pain. And the pain is listed here on my chart. So it's intense, it's cramping, it's unbearable, it's torturing, it's crushing, it's aching. When it's due to my arthritis and my inflammation levels are going up with arthritis and I have a costo attack, I actually get a visible band of inflammation that is under my breasts and it goes down my rib cage. You can actually see the swelling along my rib cage. So it's very painful and it's quite common with fibromyalgia patients. I'm sure that a lot of you experience it. The first time I had it, it was so bad and so harsh. I was bedbound and in agony for 3 months. I spent that whole summer in bed. Costo for me, it just, you can't do anything. I can't sit up. I can't really move. It's really hard to take a deep breath. It feels like a heart attack. The hallmark symptom of costochondritis is intense chest wall pain that is described as sharp, aching, and full of pressure. So it feels like a cardiac incident. And for me, when costochondritis attacks, it feels like my chest is being pulled down and inward. And the pressure builds in my chest until I feel the need to pop my sternum. And actually, when I do pop my sternum, it sounds like a gunshot going off. My mom and my husband and my family have heard it, and they were like, oh my gosh, what is that? I'm like, oh, don't worry, it's just my chest. So I really work hard at opening up my chest to relieve the pressure by doing gentle stretches and chest opening exercises, things like just making sure that I'm putting my shoulders back to try and open it up. And of course, deep breathing and trying to get full belly breaths to help with that pain. And a heating pad works wonders. And really, the only thing you can do, I've found with costo, is to just rest and keep the heat on it and hope that it subsides. It's agony, I know. All right, so my next presentation is my next slide is a special topic for me, unfortunately. Sore throat and hoarse voice. And I can't tell you how many times I've lost my voice completely this year. Throat pain and voice problems aren't mentioned much with fibromyalgia patients, but I'm telling you right now, a lot of patients talk about it, and you can see some of these patients that have chimed in. I asked a bunch of fibro folks on Twitter if they experienced it, because at the time I was looking at ending my stage or my career on stage as a singer. I was losing my voice completely, and they all chimed in and said, yeah, like I get this too with fibromyalgia. So maybe sore throat and a hoarse voice is missed because we're so busy talking about the widespread pain and fatigue that happens with all of us. Maybe people don't think it's as distressing as pain and fatigue, but losing my voice has been devastating for me. And I wish that fibromyalgia patients talked more about this because it's embarrassing, and painful symptoms like this do tend to crop up. I get really intense throat pain. My sore throat, it turns into like a gravelly, like it feels like I've got rocks in my throat. My glands swell up. It gets very tender and gritty inside my throat. And then obviously my voice either starts going super gravelly, and I've got videos of me on my several worlds where I'm taping it. And I'm like, oh, it's starting. And then eventually it just drops to a whisper, and then my voice is gone completely. And it shocks me every time. And full disclosure, I think I mentioned earlier, I am a childhood and ENT patient. I've always had problems with my ears, nose, and throat, but it did get a lot worse in the last decade. I don't know how to describe this. Like I often think, fibromyalgia causes muscle pain, and it's not uncommon for your muscles to tighten up and then stay that way. And I have to really work at noticing when my body is tight and then being conscious of it and then trying to relax. In fact, my body is tight right now. I'm trying to pull my shoulders down to help myself relax. And obviously this happens in my face and my head as well. And that results in debilitating chronic pain and tight throat muscles. which cause my sinus cavities to back up with fluid. And that results in post-nasal drip, even though my nose is always dry. Instead, I just have sore throat and sore glands all the time. And when my doctor notices this happening, he's like, "Oh, Carrie, I can tell you're really tired today. Your throat is acting up. Let's get you home as quickly as possible." The only thing that I can recommend for sore throat is that you rest, stay hydrated, and eat those ice chips. I love my ice chips. I know it's people that have thyroid problems often eat a lot of ice. I have had my thyroid checked. I haven't done it in the last 2 years, but I have had my thyroid checked and there was nothing wrong with it. So I'm assuming that the ice chip thing is just because my throat's sore all the time. All right, so I'm going to move on to my next slide here. The next slide is, how does chronic pain change us? So first of all, I want you all to remember, pain is not weakness. Pain means toughing it out day after day when you're feeling at your absolute worst. Tolerating pain takes willpower. And well, for me, at least, willpower, I've thankfully always had plenty, but it's tough. And I really want to acknowledge at least 8 different ways that chronic pain changes us. So we know that chronic pain affects every aspect of our lives. It changes us immensely when we are living with pain. Things that were once easy for us to do become hard to do or close to unbearable. Chronic pain patients never escape this cycle. It's hard to get up in the morning. Pain makes it really hard to fall asleep and get a good restorative sleep. Crystal mentioned last night that she hasn't slept the last 2 nights. I've also had a really hard time sleeping as well. I noticed that people were commenting that they thought maybe it had something to do with the change in weather. But yeah, it's tough to get a good sleep. And then, of course, chronic pain sucks up your energy and eats away at your ability to perform even the simplest of tasks. So cooking and cleaning and going to the bathroom on your own or showering all become really, really, really difficult. And there is no aspect of life that isn't affected when you are living with chronic pain. We obviously develop coping techniques to deal with chronic pain. Every single one of us is waiting and hoping for better better care, better understanding, and more treatment options so we can have a better quality of life. That is our big, big, big wish that we all hope for. And I know we're getting some great tips here at the 2nd Annual Fibromyalgia Community Conference. All right, so my next slide just outlines the 8 ways that pain changes you. So we've already talked about the first one. The second one is pain has lasting effects on your body. And if you caught Dr. Olga Pinkston's presentation the other night, then you know that pain patients are living with chronic pain, that it creates massive changes in your body that include deconditioning, hormonal changes, and changes to our cardiovascular health. We become deconditioned because pain often won't allow us to do things. It's hard to keep up with activity. So pain patients learn to avoid activities that make us worse. And that's not necessarily a wrong attitude to have, because we have to learn how to pace for pain in order to not spend every waking moment in bed. But the bottom line, of course, is that pain patients really need to pay close attention to the physical changes that are happening in our bodies. The next one is chronic pain limits our ability to work and earn money. And this one is so unbelievably hard for all of us because we need money to pay for treatments that give us a break from the pain. And this cycle is vicious. Pain treatments are often expensive, and most of them are not covered by insurance. And because chronic pain interferes with daily life, work becomes much harder or even impossible, not to mention the loss of a social life and being able to care for or carry on with relationships with others. I don't know about you guys, but I am in a vicious cycle right now where I'm getting up, I'm trying to get through work to bring in money to pay for my very expensive health lifestyle. I stumble into bed at the end of the night, and then I get up and I do it again, and I do it all week. And then the weekend comes and I don't have any energy left for anything else. All I want to do is stay in bed with my cats and or maybe sit out in my garden and work on some art and just be quiet. All right, number 4, pain changes your personality. It makes us grouchy and emotional. It makes us depressed and anxious. We experience depression, anxiety, mood changes, emotional instability, and altered perceptions. That is all very much the norm with chronic pain. And speaking personally, I am not the person that I was before pain impacted my life. I'm a completely different person than I was before pain came into my life. And I miss the old Carrie, and I grieve that person a lot because I had a very rich and fulfilling life until pain came along. And I still have a rich and fulfilling life. And a lot of that has to do with you, the fibromyalgia community. You guys are my lifeline. The people that I've met that understand what I'm going through, you guys keep me going and you give me great ideas to continue sharing. So there's a lot of grief associated with pain. And it's tough losing who you are. And obviously, chronic pain affects your confidence. When you're unable to participate in daily events, or you can't care for yourself, or you can't see your friends, or, for me, like I said to my doctor when I was at the hospital on Thursday, like I don't even have the energy to go out and have a 90-minute dinner with my husband. Like, that's nuts. Like, I should be able to have 90 minutes out of my day to be able to go out and have dinner with my husband. Like, our 15-year anniversary is coming up on December 10th. And we're talking about staying in again and just, we'll get dressed up and maybe stay in and have a quiet evening here. But that's what we do every day. That's what we've done every day since we got married, because I got my diagnosis two months after I married him. So yeah, it's really tough. It affects your personality. How much confidence can a person really maintain when they have to ask for help for everything? It's tough. We don't want to have to ask for help. We want to be able to do it ourselves. And of course, number 6, chronic pain will change your relationships. I've just told you a little bit about my husband, who is a saint. He's not here listening right now, which is great because I don't want to pump him up too much. I got to keep him on his toes. But chronic pain changes your personality. People will either try and understand what you're going through, or they'll leave. And my experience, especially with a lot of close people in my life, not my immediate family, like my mom and my dad, but other members of my family have just up and left. They're gone. They're not interested. They're sick of hearing about it. And that hurts. And I've had friends that, don't want to hear about it anymore. They think that all I talk about is my pain. I am not just my pain, by the way. If you have a look at anything that I'm doing online, I do talk a lot about fibromyalgia and axial spondyloarthritis. It's my job. But I'm also someone that shares a lot of art. I like sharing artists that are doing different things. I love talking about my cats. I love talking about books. Like, I am a multifaceted human being that has a lot of things going for them. I am not just my illness, and neither are you. So unfortunately, when chronic pain changes our relationships, it's our partners and our family that often bear the brunt of our emotions. And on high pain days, it's our loved ones who are subjected to our mood swings and irritability. Finally, number 7, chronic pain makes you feel fearful and scared. And I'm going to tell you flat out, I am scared all the time. Wouldn't you be scared of doing things if you're in pain? I tend to avoid a lot of things that I used to do now because I'm scared to step out my front door. Inside my home and in my garden, I can keep a modicum of normalcy going on in my life. I've got a routine that doesn't seem to throw things off balance. But once I step out my front door, I've got zero control and I have to think of everything. How long am I going to be on my feet? Am I going to have to get around obstacles? What am I going to run into? Are there going to be a lot of people there? There are just a lot of factors that go into that. And then the last one, I want to remind you that living with chronic pain takes a superhuman power of pain tolerance. Living with chronic pain, as I mentioned at the very beginning, it means we develop this high tolerance for pain. Pain is not weakness. Pain means toughing it out day after day when you're feeling at your absolute worst. And I want to make sure that I've said that again, because we need to keep reminding ourselves of this. I can function on days with high levels of pain that would leave most people screaming in agony. I'm in a lot of pain right now, and I don't know if anybody can tell or not. This is my pain face. I also feel that my tolerance for pain has increased over the past 15 years. I'm still experiencing the same levels of pain that I was experiencing 15 years ago, but I've got better coping techniques now. And I feel that those coping techniques help me get through a lot of it. So we learn things about our bodies that only world-class athletes might be able to relate to. And I like to say pretty frequently, I feel like I'm an Olympian sometimes because I know my body really well. We persevere in things that would stop other people in their tracks. So the positive takeaways, even though I've just listed 8 things here on or 8 topics here on how pain changes us, although chronic pain changes you and the ways that it changes you might feel awful and unbearable. Most pain patients have also expressed that pain has made them a better person in terms of empathy and understanding. It's humbling to live with pain every day. It's humbling to have to ask for help and to realize that things you used to do or take for granted are no longer a part of your life because you can't do them anymore. So those are my positive takeaways. Finally, I'm getting a little bit towards the end of my presentation here. I know it's been a long one because I have added a few extra things to it. How do we accept and cope with pain? Obviously, we talk about it. We talk about it and talk about our feelings to help us process what we're going through. That's what we're doing here at this conference. You're hearing from patient advocates that are telling you what they're going through. Telling your story really helps. Storytelling is therapy. For me, writing is therapy. I write, this is going to sound so nerdy, but I mean, fibro nerds, right? I spend at least an hour writing every day. I was born a writer. I'm going to die a writer for sure. So writing about it and talking about it helps us track what is happening with our health, but it also helps others and gives them the courage to speak up. And we can engage in these meaningful activities that help to calm our immune system and our brain. And those things include things like writing and mindfulness, art, gardening, flower arranging for me. I do all sorts of quiet things that help to calm my brain and just live my best life. And finally, with my next slide, here is our lovely team here at Team Fibro. I love these women with all my heart. I had to take a minute there because I almost got a little bit emotional. We make connections, and connections allow us to develop friendships with people who understand what we're going through. And these women here, we all understand what you're going through. It helps to know that someone else is going through the same thing that you're going through, doesn't it? Can't tell you how many times someone has said to me, "Me too, I'm so glad I found you, Carrie." So the key takeaways for this last slide that I've got, I want to remind you that each step forward is a step forward on your journey. I want you to remember to learn how to use those simple tools that I gave you to navigate your healthcare appointments. Words matter. Those words will help you. I know that my doctors appreciate that I can explain the difference between the different kinds of pain that I'm experiencing. And finally, make sure you have someone in your corner. And that's all of us here at Support Fibromyalgia's second annual Fibromyalgia Community Conference. Once again, I am Carrie Kellenberger. Here is my final slide that shows you where you can find me online. I want to wrap up this chat with yet another reminder that studies show that patients overwhelmingly rely on other patient advocates and nonprofits like Support Fibromyalgia Network to disperse up-to-date information. We hope you are getting all of the information that you need at this conference. reach out. We want to hear from you. I hope you enjoyed this presentation today, and I know I'm going to see you next year. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. There's so much more to come. So take care, everybody. That's it for my conference. Hey, Crystal. Hey, Jen.
Hi.
Man, I almost lost it there. I almost started crying.
Well, you know what? Crying is okay. It makes us human. And I think as advocates and leaders and mentors that we have to remember that we are human, and our vulnerability also helps others relate to us, because then they're like, oh, they get it. They get it because we're going through the same thing. And, just listening to everything, and it's late, and I know people want to get to bed or get to what they need to do for the day, or evening. But listening to the informational discussion you had with May, and then your presentation, Carrie, and then reading the comments, there's a lot of comments like, yes, some people are like, I need to hear more stories so that I know there's more people out there like me. So like sharing your story, it can become someone else's survival guide. And the other thing is, a lot of people may wonder, tuning in to this conference, or even if they go back and watch segments from last year's conference, or they see that we're interconnected and engaging in collaborations with each other. I'm a huge, huge, huge supporter of breaking the silos, because it doesn't matter where you live. We are having some similar experiences, and a lot of healthcare systems are overtaxed right now throughout the world. So we're facing the same barriers, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing is why it's important for us to be interconnected is that we do assist each other. One thing that was great is, Carrie, I connected with you in like 2020. And then I started petitioning the CDC and the National Institutes of Health to update the information on fibromyalgia. Then you reached out to Miss Fibro May, and she translated that petition into Mandarin Chinese so that anybody that spoke Chinese could sign it. And I was like, yes, because anyone in the world should sign this petition, because the CDC and the NIH will give funding for research to researchers in other countries. So, and those are just examples of, we're hearing your story. You were born in Canada, you're in Taiwan. Danielle and I are in the United States, but we're experiencing a lot of the same symptoms and barriers. And then coming together for the good of the community internationally is just as important as coming together in your own country, because together we make a difference.
We do. And that is Team Fibro. We are global. We are global. And I love that the world is such a big place, and we're all connected. And it just, sometimes it overwhelms me to see the connections that are happening around the world. Like, I'm just so grateful to everybody that reaches out and shares, or just says, hey, me too. I mean, it's an impact, right? And I know that everybody that I talk to is super grateful for everything that all of you do. And I admire all of you immensely.
I'm so grateful for you to be able to share your story and hear your story, because I relate to a lot that you were saying. And even when you were talking to May, I related to a lot of that. So I'm really grateful you were on here. I'm able to share your story. And I just want to tell everyone, if they don't know, to definitely go to My Several Worlds, because on there, you share health tips and tricks. You share about alternative treatments. You share conference recaps, and you just spread health equity and your advocacy. You're an advocate for advocates. So everyone needs to go onto your website and check all of it out, because it's such a broad spectrum of all different things of advocacy. And definitely go check it out, because you will find something on our website that you can relate to, whether it's art, advocacy, treatment, it's on our website.
Thank you, Danielle. 20 years blogging, it's sometimes I'm amazed. Like, I look back at it all, I'm like, I've got over actually I'm going to hit 930 articles by the end of the end of this year. So that is like a true fibro nerd, right? 930 articles.
And I see a lot of comments echoing what you said, Danielle and Carrie. A lot of love for you, Carrie. A lot of people appreciating sharing both your knowledge, but also being raw and vulnerable, and sharing your experiences, and even some of the emotions and fear that surrounds being chronically ill and having chronic pain is definitely resonating with everyone. And does anybody else have any questions in the chat? Or do you two ladies have anything else to add?
I wanted to see if you had any advice, because it's great that what you wrote about, like the words and everything, because brain fog is such a huge thing. When you go to appointments and you have brain fog and they're asking you, oh, what's your pain like? And you can't think of those words,
Right.
it's like, it hurts. So
I
it's
saw
great.
someone, they screenshotted Carrie's,
Yeah.
and I was like, yeah, and I do that too. I also write notes in my calendar, like I'll attach a note in my phone because I'll forget stuff because of brain fog.
Right. Yeah,
Well,
I was gonna say, what do you suggest? Oh, sorry. I was just gonna ask what you suggest to bring, or like what do you bring to appointments besides a pain journal?
Okay. All right. So I've got large medical binders in case I have to see a new doctor that obviously I can't take it to the hospital. But actually, this is my pain journal. I was dead serious when I said that the basic stuff is written in here so that I can just slide it to my doctor and point to what I want. But also another really quick tip that my doctor told me a few months ago in August, like when I was going through the blood clots and the new APS diagnosis and all the heart incidents and everything like that, I could not write anything down. Like my brain was just mush. So I was literally using my Google Calendar. And I don't know if you know, but on your Google Calendar, if you're using it on your phone, you can enter in an emoji for each day. And the emoji, you go to your Google Calendar and you pull it up, and it comes up with a little emoji symbol here at the top. So here's my Sunday, and right here you can see a little happy face at the top of the Google Calendar. You press on that, and then I put a happy face or a sad face or a sick face or something. And then he looks at my calendar and he's like, it's full of sad faces. or it's got a snowflake on it for cold weather. So I can often track what's happening just with an emoji. And he's like, that's really smart to do it that way, because often I go in, I'm like, I can't even talk right now. Like, just let me get through this appointment and go home. So that's a quick tip that you can use. And I have posted photos of my Google Calendar before to give people an idea of what that looks like, because they were really intrigued by it and they didn't know that function is there. But yeah, keep it simple with hospital appointments and doctor appointments.
Yeah, I always say, what are your top 3 for that appointment? And the other thing is, and I know you touched upon apps, like health apps, and there's a lot of health apps out there that you could do different things, like everything from tracking your blood pressure to your yeah, Cody, he talks way too much, more than me, which is amazing. It's almost impossible to talk more than me, but he can. But there's apps that you can track different things, but there isn't really, I haven't found a health app that's really universal that will track your mood, track your fatigue, track your nutrition, how much you move, physical movement, pain. So there are some like journals that are apps that I have one, I can't remember the name. And I will actually use talk to text to put in my 3 top points that I need to talk about at an appointment. And then I'll like keep track like the severity of my symptoms for like maybe 10 to 14 days before an appointment. Or the other thing I do is I take photos of what I look like and I create collages to show, and I put the date on each photo. And then I'll be like, oh, this day was a good day. This day, not so much. And I will, this day, it was just a dumpster fire kind of a day. And so it's like you have your quick points and you can show your doctors visually what you look like on different days of severity of symptoms. And me personally, I like that because the visual the photo can be more telling than the words we share, because they can see it. People, they don't always see, like, right now I have makeup on and stuff, but I've been in a flare up for 2 days. So I'm kind of like, but with great lighting and makeup, I can look pretty normal, right?
Exactly.
But if I look like this today and then tomorrow I look like a dumpster fire, if I take a picture, I'll be like, yeah, well, this is what I looked like at this virtual conference, and now this is me the next day. And so they say, picture says 1,000 words. And so that's why I like doing photo collages, especially if I'm going to a new doctor or it's a newer doctor who doesn't know me as well.
Yeah, those are great tips. I'm definitely going to use those.
Your photos are always great, and you're always gorgeous, Crystal. Always.
Thank you.
I've seen your photo collages, and I love how you illustrate it. I always think, oh, that's such a clever way to do it. I feel like every time I see my doctor, I look terrible. Anyways, I don't know why. It seems to ramp up whenever I have to see him.
But from day to day, let's say your husband can tell the difference, but your doctor only sees you. They only have a snapshot. So that's why I create the snapshot collages, because if they see you, then that's your baseline for them. And they're like, well, she says she's in a lot of pain, but she looks the same every time she comes in. Right. Yeah. But if you're like, oh no, like 2 days ago, I was in bed, my pain was so high, I was sweating, you could see it in the photo. And that's why I said, sometimes just doing, and I know just recently, like last week, I posted a picture of when my lymph nodes get swollen.
Yes, yeah.
And then I have like a collage out there where it shows like the varying degrees of what my pain is. And I'm like and people are like, oh, like, yeah, she in pain in that one picture. I'm like, oh yeah, yeah. My face is all ruddy. I look like I'm 10 years older. But yeah, and it's kind of, again, putting that out there in social media and being vulnerable, but giving the idea of a tool for someone to use, but also for people to look at that and be like, yeah, I get that. And so sometimes it's a matter of just being creative with the tools we already have in our hand instead of creating something new or buying. Some people, I know you like to write. I like writing, but it hurts my hands after a while. So that's why I like using tools or apps, or even my own email, and do talk to text and save that. And I even save stuff for myself, like on Facebook Messenger. I'm like, oh, here's this link of something I want to go back to and read. Yeah. So that's what I do.
We're all different. What do you use, Danielle?
I just make a Word document, and I do like lists of like, this is, because I go to all different specialists, right? Like I'm sure we all do. And so I'm like, this is what this doctor said. This is what this doctor said. So I just have it kind of written and like, this is exactly what they said. Put this in your notes. So this isn't my record. Like, this is exactly what happened. But I didn't really do anything with my pain journal. I really like your guys' ideas. So I'm kind of going to combine them, I think. Because I think in Google Calendars, you can add a photo too.
Yes, you can. I have not added photos to it, but I love just being able to pull up the month, and I can take my calendar to do stuff out so that it just shows emojis. And that way he's like, oh, okay, so you had 20 days of sad faces. Or 20 days of like sick face emojis this month. So I know that your fibro or your arthritis has been really bad. It's just a really quick, easy way for him to gauge what's happening that month. And unfortunately, 2023 has been a bad year. So when I look through my calendar at the end of this month, it's going to be really interesting to see how many sick, sad faces I can count up, because it's going to be over 300 days for sure. So
we have a question here from Tanya about costochondritis. And one of them is, do we know why it happens and how to eliminate it, or at least not go through so much? There could be different reasons why something would trigger costochondritis. And for those who don't know, it's the inflammation of the cartilage around and within your rib cage. And a lot of people will describe it as it felt like they were having a heart attack. And I know the first couple of times I had it, it hurt to take a breath because you're expanding. And I mean, it's intense. Like I can't move type of, like if I move, it makes it worse. You know, I had pneumonia that triggered it, a flare up of fibromyalgia that triggered it. I've had an injury that triggered it. And I think what we see a lot is a lot of interplay between if you have more than one condition. So if my fibromyalgia flares up, it might trigger a migraine, or it might trigger costochondritis. And I know for myself, for me, if it's really bad, it's like I literally have to kind of lay still and wait it out. If it gets really, really bad, I'll call my doctor and I'll go and get some steroid injections. Like if I feel like if I'm taking a breath and it hurts to breathe and I'm breathing shallow as a result, that's when I'll go in and get an injection from my doctor. And costochondritis can occur on its own, or can happen with other medical conditions. And that's why there could be varying degrees as to what triggers it. So someone with lupus could experience it, but for different reasons than people with rheumatoid arthritis or osteoarthritis or fibromyalgia. And that's kind of figuring out the myriad of all the medical conditions someone may have and the symptoms, and figuring out, okay, this symptom is like, I get my brain fog is the fibro, right? But then migraines, which are common with fibromyalgia, but mine are due to injury to my neck. So my migraine trigger is different than what is typical of someone with fibromyalgia, who ends up developing like cluster headaches, tension headaches, or have a migraine attack. So that's kind of figuring out the maybe key factors that could be increasing the risk of something triggering costochondritis. And then once you know that, then you know you can develop strategies to manage it, or reach out to your doctor for them to assist you with managing it medically. Because the pain's intense. And I have a really high, I mean, I've broken stuff before, and I've had a collapsed lung before, and pneumonia, and just my surgeries, I get sawed in half, and I'm like, oh, I don't need pain meds. I mean, I'm miserable, but costochondritis, that's one take me down.
Yes, Costco is a different type of hell. For people that have never experienced it before, or if you just experienced it for the first time, make sure you tell your doctor, and please go and get it checked out ahead of time, because you really can't tell the difference. You don't know what it is at first. It does feel like a heart attack. So that's not something that you just want to go through and then not mention it to your doctor. Your doctor needs to know that you're experiencing it. And I'm the same as Crystal. Like, it lays me flat. I cannot sit up. I basically just lie in bed and try and take, liquids in and keep the heating pad on my chest and hope that it goes down, and max out on whatever painkillers that I'm taking. And if it gets really bad, then I'm heading to ER to get an injection. So make sure your doctor knows that you're experiencing that. And I hope that people don't get it frequently, because it's definitely one of the worst ones.
Mm-hmm. And then wrapping up here with one last question. So Daphne's stated that she didn't realize fibromyalgia could affect the ANS. And is there a link, or basically, do we know of any resources off the top of our head? And if not, we can come back and provide you that information, Daphne, and learn about how it affects the BP and heart rate.
I will come back to you on that one, the ANS. I don't think I mentioned the ANS, unless maybe it was a word slip up. I don't think I mentioned ANS in my presentation. So right now I'm thinking of my central nervous system. There goes my voice. There goes my voice. Let me try and get back to you on that and see if I can find some information for you, Daphne.
So Danielle or Carrie, are there any other quick points you want to add before we wrap up?
I think I've maxed out my voice. Like, it's really starting to go now. So
I think you should rest, get some,
I've got like another minute or two before it goes completely. I hope you guys get a great sleep tonight.
Likewise. Well, thank you so much, Carrie, for your awesome presentation. And I always love listening to you. And Danielle, for you being here and helping us along the way with the slides and everything else, and with all the tech issues. And for May's informational video and discussion with Carrie, it'll be replayed again later this week. And then tomorrow, make sure you check in at 2 p.m. ET time, because we're going to have a wonderful informational session with Marco from Spain, a man living with fibromyalgia. He has a lot of great insight and great, perspective for the men out there. And until next time, make your self-care your number one priority. Love yourselves and love each other. Ta-ta for now.
Good night, everyone. See you tomorrow.